but I just think the Buckeye defense is going to. You're going to see the Chris Ash defense this week. You're going to see the difference in approach, the press coverage, the contesting every throw, the emphasis on a pass rush and on stopping the run. I just don't think that 9 new starters for Virginia Tech, including a new quarterback starter, is going to be enough to score enough to slow this, to be close enough to beat the Buckeyes, to score enough points to beat the Buckeyes on their home field with all the offensive weapons that they have. They've had some problems. I just don't see an upset here. They do have five starters. I think it's 5 starters returning on defense. They have a good defensive coordinator, respected guy, but they the defense will be tough. But I think the Buckeyes just have too many weapons. I look for a game somewhere in the 30-20 neighborhood, or 30-35, 33-21, something along those lines, where they're going to score some points. But I think the Buckeyes score more than 30. I certainly don't think they play the first half without a touchdown like they did the other day. And I think Barrett's just going to be a little bit more comfortable on friendly ground, and we'll see, as Tressel used to say, how you do with 105,000 people watching. They've expanded the stadium, so it's going to be more like 107,000, I think, this week. But I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I will definitely be one of those 107,000. Got my ticket in the South Stands for this Saturday's game, so be able to give you a live report.
Well, there you go. And, I'm with you. I believe the home crowd and that atmosphere and that energy is going to be enough to push them through. That's why I didn't pull the trigger. But I think it's just going to be one of those seasons. And it speaks to with the uncertainty. And we've talked about what comes with having a rookie quarterback and just some younger players, especially in a key position like that, is every game this season, with the exception of perhaps, no offense, but, a Kent State or something like that, has that looming over it, or perhaps the also-rans in the Big Ten. Every game with even a competitive opponent does have that looming over the Buckeyes. They haven't always had that the last few years. You've been more dominantly head and shoulders above the other team, or expected to be, you know what I mean? Whereas you're going to have a lot of games that you can't look past this year.
That's true, and now if you go back and look at you can say, well, Urban Meyer hasn't lost a home game yet at Ohio State. Well, he hasn't lost a road game either. Both of his losses have been on neutral fields.
Yep.
But I don't know. I just think that the Meyer factor and the home game factor is just going to be too much to overcome. I think the game that really is the one that scares the daylights out of me is Cincinnati, more so than this one. I think the Buckeyes get a relatively easy win here. But it's that Cincinnati game that really looks to me like a potential upset special. They're a nice-looking team, and they're coming off of 2 9-4 seasons, and they certainly are going to be jacked up beyond belief to come to Columbus and play the Buckeyes. They'd come close to beating the Buckeyes. No Ohio team has beaten Ohio State, and I don't know the exact date. I should, but it's got to be back in the 19 teams, 1916 or something. I think Oberlin is the last team to beat Ohio State. It was from Ohio. Cincinnati's come very, very close the last couple of times they've played them, and they always come into Ohio Stadium wanting it bad, and so that one frightens me a little bit. But you look back at the 2 undefeated regular seasons for Meyer. There are just been not a few, but many very, very close games, close calls, overtime games. The 2012 season was littered with 1-point wins and overtime wins and last-second Purdue wins. So there's been an awful lot of close calls. There's been nothing approaching dominance by this team, even against some of the also-rans like the Indianas of the world, and played some tight games certainly with Purdue and Illinois and folks like that. So. I think I don't think that Meyer is overconfident in this group. He likes this team. He said so many times it has the look of a good team, but I think maybe he was sobered up a little bit by the outcome last Saturday. Certainly, I think this team without Braxton Miller looks more like a 10-2 or 9-3 team than it does an 11-1 or 12-0 team. Still a team that's going to get by most of their opponents, but I do expect the Buckeyes to get knocked off a time or two this year, and I just don't think it's going to be this Saturday.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the offensive line. Obviously, Urban Meyer is concerned. We talked about him talking about them catching up to the playbook, but he also gave credit to the Hokies. He said this is probably the best or maybe the second best defensive line they face all year. So that's going to be important to get that together. And, sure, some of that is overselling your opponent a bit to get your squad together, but that is obviously, as you said, one of the main areas of concern. And they're almost going from one polar opposite to the other, from an extreme different rushing attack to now one that's going to be very pass heavy, and it's now going to test your defense completely differently. So a lot of unanswered questions, I think, get answered in this game about what we can expect from week to week with this team.
Yeah, no doubt. When we were talking last Wednesday, I said, we're not going to learn anything about the Buckeyes' revamped pass defense this week, and we certainly didn't. It was the biggest concern coming into the season after the horrendous pass defense they showed last year. And, here we are, ranked third in the nation in pass defense. We gave up 20 yards passing to a team that threw the ball 3 times or maybe 4, I can't recall. So, like you said, we didn't learn anything about what that pass defense now looks like. So this is our first shot this Saturday to find out what that's about. We will face more pass-heavy teams all down the line on the schedule than this one. They have a little bit of balance. I think when you start looking at the the Indianas and some of the other teams that we'll face that are running spreads and throwing the ball all over the place on 65% of their downs, we'll really get a little bit more of a picture of that. But we'll get at least a taste of what we can expect this year in pass defense, and you'll see the new players that are out there, the Von Bells and the Garion Conleys and Eli Apples. See how those guys will react to the new system that Ash has put in, and where he really wants to play press on the outside and a press fours, as they call it, quarters, where the field's divided into quarters, and you've got basically a base set of press coverage on the outside and trying to make a play on every football that's thrown.
I'll tell you what, man. You talk about getting a first look. You're going to get a look at the Buckeyes. Then you're going to get – oh, wait, no, actually, let's see what else you got. You going to the Indians game tomorrow?
No, I don't have tickets for tomorrow.
I thought maybe you'd be doing the Thursday deal again. Well, it's not the afternoon game. It's the evening game. Usually you hit the businessman special, right?
Yeah, that's right. I do like to get up to those, but just this time it doesn't work out for me, and people coming into town. My grandkids are coming to town for the weekend, so I got to be preoccupied this weekend with that. And making the side trip down to Columbus on Saturday with my son and his friends. So that'll be an adventure. But not planning to get up to Progressive Field, and I guess I'm not the only one. Embarrassing crowd last night.
Good segue.
We can beat that like a dead horse, Jerry, and we have. And I'm as tired of the attendance debate as anyone, but I do hope someone in the front office that's responsible for selling tickets loses their job this off season.
I mean, I'm sorry, man. I know Bruce mentioned about them trying to give them away, which I don't believe that, because I've talked to the front office, and that is polar opposite of their philosophy. They do not believe in giving any tickets away because it just devalues their ticket even more. And I find it hard to believe that the same team that won't let you get a $10 ticket walk up unless you ordered it in advance on the internet is going to send people out on the streets giving away free tickets at game time to try to fill up the crowd. That doesn't mesh with the philosophy. But I know people say, well, dynamic pricing is not that big of a deal. I mean, there's clearly people who, they may not be turned away at the gates anymore, but that's because they learned their lesson from driving downtown. But I don't care what you say. You can't tell me that there's not at least a couple of thousand people that don't decide an hour before the game, hey, let's go check out an Indians game. So you don't have time to go buy the ticket on the internet in advance so you can get it for $10. And I know that that's what they want, but that just took that away. And you can say that, well, they're not walking up anyway. Yeah, because after a couple of years of it, they figured out that that's the way it works, and they can't go get it. So, I hate that policy. That is one that I wish they'd do away with. I think, hey, you want to charge more for weekend games? I'm cool with that. You want to charge more for Yankee games? I'm cool with that too. Price the tickets however you want, but set the price and leave the price. That dynamic pricing stuff is just that's ridiculous, But that's not just the problem, Dan. That's not
you're right, and that really is the point. I think that is not the heart of the attendance problem.
No.
The greatest, if you're averaging 16,000, which I assume is probably approximately where they still are.
17 or something like that.
Is it 17?
I think so. I'll look it up right now. Go ahead. I'll look it up.
Either way, and we've had that conversation before too. The highest walk-up crowds in the history of the park is 5,000 and 6,000 people. So if you're averaging 16 and you get 5,000 walk-up, a top 10 walk-up all time. Even if you got that every single night, you wouldn't be half full. No. And that's really what the issue is. I'm sure the Indians probably in this season would be happy if they could average 20, 21 instead of 15 or 16. But that's certainly a far cry from 5 straight years of sellouts and the way they had that park full, 20 years ago. So it just obviously it's a different economy, different world we live in, and a different roster and a different team on the field. But you're not going to make or break your attendance by changing that dynamic pricing rule.
No, and I understand that.
I admit to being less familiar with it than you are in terms of the details and ins and outs of it. But it's a drop in the bucket in terms of what the attendance problem really is with the team.
And I understand that. And now I come back to this, and here's what, and I don't know if you heard me at the beginning of the show. This is what I don't know how to figure out. And this is a compliment to the other teams. This is not meant in a bad comparison, but I'm not talking a different economy. I'm not talking about the 90s to today. I'm talking a few months ago. Earlier in 2014, you look at Gladiators games, you look at Monsters games, there were a select few regular season, non-playoff, non-historic importance games that sold more tickets than that Indians game did last night. And I'm thinking that now we're not comparing apples to apples. Oranges. We're comparing apples in the same bucket. We're talking about the same year, the same economy. The building is 5 seconds away from the other one. So there's as much similarity as there can be there. And if anything, you're dealing with winter weather. You're dealing with worse travel experiences, So that's what really confuses me because, and you know what, I saw an article today, and I want to give credit to whoever it was that wrote it because I like Zach Meisel, and he was writing about the game last night and stuff, and he brought up all the things that you and I could name, all the different issues, which each one of them drove a few thousand fans away. That's how you could split up where all these fans went. It's dynamic pricing for some people. It's the Dolans for some people. It's the trading away the stars for some people. It's the Indians and the Browns and the Cavs and the differences between the teams for some people. It's home TV for some people. But at the end of the day, if you can't fix that, then his final sentence was something eventually must change. And now I have to question, is that support really there? I know you can get them out for the playoffs. And if we went to a World Series run, we would do 42,000 for every one of those playoff games. But there's 81 games before you get to those playoffs that are dead empty. Can a team competitively live in this environment drawing that way throughout the regular season? I don't know how that works. It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
I don't think they can. And my sentiment when I go to those games in April and May, and there's an announced crowd of 9,000, but everybody that looks at the crowd knows that it's closer to 1,000 or 2,000.
Right.
That are actually butts in chairs. I feel sorry for the players. I feel sorry for the Cleveland Indians players who have to go out on the field and play in silence and play with golf claps going on around them instead of cheers. That's where my head goes. Is like, man, this has got to be tough for Brantley and Bourne and Kipnis and Santana and all these guys to go out there with that kind of. It's got to be embarrassing to them as they are confronting their opponents and play in front of full stadiums, and many of them. So that's where my thought process is. It's got to be tough